What's up, everybody? Welcome to Super Theory Podcast number 7, Defund the G.C.P.D. Today, same as always, it's me, Brandon Martin, and my co-host, Chris Green.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Doing good, man.
I'm good, too. I apologize for all of you that tried to tune in yesterday, if you did. And if you tune in today and our audio is not super up to par, we're just having some problems right now, and I'll definitely have it fixed by the next time we do this because it's very annoying. But yeah, man, we are here. Today we're going to talk about what in the world is going on with the idea of this new TV deal that Matt Reeves has got.
So it used to be the more Batman content, the better.
Yes.
And then I had to pause that thinking.
Yep.
Because off the heels of the Fox Gotham show that premiered on Fox, man, I was just not a fan of it.
No.
And so the last thing I thought that we would see is something that at least sounds similar, even if they end up doing it more in the vein of how have you watched any of the Watchmen TV show that they rebooted?
Yes.
Okay. If it's more in that stylized vein, the show can work because I obviously think the new Watchmen is good. But as an idea in general, it's kind of the last thing I wanted to hear coming out of Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I agree. Gosh, I am not into. I would never got into Gotham. I wasn't into it. The the acting I'm sure was fine, and I know some people liked it. And I tried to get into it, and it was just like, I mean, it was a Fox show. It didn't to me. It didn't even stand up to like CW stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's definitely like when you watch CW stuff, like the Flash or the Arrow got some pretty good reviews.
Right.
Obviously, I think they went to like season 7 even, 6 or 7. So obviously it had a fan base, but you definitely felt, whether it be budget wise, that it was definitely a CW show. And for Gotham, I felt like every episode they tried to slam as much stuff as you could possibly put, and it was because it seemed like every episode was dedicated to original choices for the character. Which, if you're an actor, that's got to be hard to do because you don't want to copy someone you've seen before. But
right.
You definitely it's a definitely hit or miss business when it comes to that. And because of the fan base, people may be expecting something different, but man, it was bad to me.
Yeah, and here's what bothers me. Well, there's a lot in that show that bothers me. But I say my biggest problem now that the show is over was the actual bat suit. Like, and I'm not saying anything new. So this isn't like a new take on criticism. But goddamn, it looked like fucking trash bags. You know what I mean? Like,
it looked legitimately
like black.
And if you want to make the argument that it was his first suit and he's gonna have to like revamp it, fine. But he's dead the first night he wears it.
Yeah, and then like the honestly the little mock-up suits the kid was putting on before the full bat suit looked better.
Way better.
Even if it was just like literally a black mask, like something Black Mask would wear with no ears or anything, and then like the little the jacket he was wearing that was like looked like a down jacket or something like that, and just like that was better looking than the final suit for the end of the show. Like if you have a show that's gone on that long, and you obviously have money and you have a budget, like literally put all your money into leaving a fucking stamp. Like,
yeah, show them especially when you know you're in your last season.
Yeah,
and you know that your final episode's last 5 minutes is especially dedicated to this big reveal.
Mm-hmm.
My God, I don't know, do better.
Yeah, 100%. Here's what's real fucked up is like they made that one dude Jeremiah or whatever and his weird twin brother thing look more like the Joker than like that dude ever got close to looking like a good Batman. You know what I mean?
Oh, they put way more effort into that Joker outfit. He by far was the standout of the show. if you would even like to put, he still doesn't join into the category of other great Jokers in my opinion, but
right.
I think by default he's better than the other fucking choices.
And that dude was a good actor, and he is a good actor.
100%.
Like,
yeah, 100%.
He is a good actor as the Joker. A lot of people have really admired his take, but what sucks is like the rest of the show didn't really live up to that guy. And
right.
I mean,
it seemed like in those episodes where he would be confronting the actor that was playing Bruce Wayne, that he was acting with a child.
Yeah. Totally.
Even if they were similar ages. I don't know what their real age difference is, but it really felt like he was on the screen with a child.
Yeah, and like, I hate the fact that like they had, if the numbers may be different, but to me it seems like their makeup budget was way bigger than their suit budget or costume budget.
Oh yeah.
Because like
Bane, can you even explain that Bane suit to me?
I was just gonna say that Bane suit looks like the first probably couple of failure suits from like Superman Lives, when they're trying to get Nicolas Cage's suit all done. Like if you haven't seen that documentary, it's cool, but like when they show how they're trying to make a suit and there's like all those clear plastic pieces, that they're like kind of putting together and putting cool lights on and stuff. Like
yeah,
the Bane costume of this past show that was like a few years ago versus that movie, which was supposed to be done in like the early 90s or whatever, like the Bane suit looks like the first mock-up of like an attempt at Nicolas Cage's Superman Lives suit, which is 100%. Just fucked up.
Yeah,
I don't even know what to say.
Clear, translucent, really fucking weird. I remember when Dark Knight Rises came out, Bane's mask that Tom Hardy wore was kind of divisive. People either liked it or not. Kind of looked like a spider. Yeah. Or like a kind of balled up hand. Then you immediately realize how much better it is when you see something like that.
Right.
Where it's like, hey, go back in the back alley and put together a plastic mask we've got that you would wear to protect yourself from the COVID-19.
I got a project for you. Build this suit out of old milk jugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were at Lee High School and we're in art class and it's time to paper mache. Yeah, and moving away from the mask, that's the focal point. The rest of the suit is, it is absolute garbage rubber.
I personally don't see how Gotham went on for that long, but I also didn't really watch it. I tried and I just couldn't do it. I have high marks for the guy that played the Riddler. I think that was actually kind of a cool story arc that he started as like a forensics person inside the Gotham City Police Department. But that dude ain't gonna save the show from me.
No. Well, and that's a larger question. Can a show exist without Batman being the focal point when you can have actual movies where Batman's involved fail, like Batman and Robin?
See, man, I don't know. Like,
well, let's put things in the category. So, what is going to be different with this version, without knowing anything about it, is that it at least pertains to a world where we know who the Batman already is.
Yes.
So that has something going for it rather than what the original Gotham show had, where you're basically Bruce Wayne as a child. Now, whether they decide to set this new Matt Reeves universe Gotham show a couple of years prior to Robert Pattinson's Batman, that's maybe that's what they end up doing. But there's at least no wiggle room, and we're having to deal with a 10-year-old Bruce Wayne at first.
Right. Yeah. I think here's a couple of things that still worry me about the idea. One, Gotham. We just talked about it. Two, the guy who's there that's helping write it for Matt Reeves or whatever. I forgot his actual name, so I apologize for that quick loss. But he was a writer on Boardwalk Empire, and I don't know if you've watched Boardwalk Empire. There's definitely some exciting elements, but like there's definitely some boring as shit stuff in there too. Yeah. And I'm not saying obviously he's not writing Boardwalk Empire and throwing a Gotham name on it, but like
Terrence Ryder?
Yes. Yeah.
I agree with you, but that is what ends up happening. Name a show that's a progression show, not like a Modern Family or something like that, that has episodes built upon one another, where you don't have those trash episodes in there, where you're like, yeah, I could do without that episode.
Right.
I mean, Game of Thrones had that.
Right. So, like...
that's almost unavoidable, which sucks.
Right. I do think what would be cool, and I'm just throwing this out there. It's not obviously not anything, but like, did you ever watch End of Watch with that David Ayer did?
Is that the police?
Yeah.
One with
Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal? No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so that's pretty badass, like cop movie, and if they and I'm not saying it's got to be like this every episode, but like if you can bring some fucking intensity, like real cops, going through real shit, like they really kind of tried to portray in that movie, like if you bring that to a Gotham style show, like fuck yeah, dude, I'm in. Because it wasn't.
But you're having to make the focal point of a show like that centered around a character that eventually is going to be overshadowed because of what world it's in.
Right.
So let's just say it's a cop drama centered around, however you want to describe, whether it's going to be around Commissioner Gordon or another cop. How are you going to develop that character in a way that isn't going to just immediately be overshadowed or undershadowed by eventually we get to see Pattinson and Batman?
I don't know. Part of me thinks it would be cool if it's, if they tried to center it around Gordon again, but now it's about the early days where maybe you bring Pattinson in for like a guest starring role, and he just kind of helps shape it to where he's starting to build a relationship with them, so you kind of see how their trust starts to build, possibly, because Matt Reeves and Jeffrey Wright have both said that like he's not Commissioner Gordon, he's playing Gordon, which leads you to believe that in Batman's second year, Gordon's not Commissioner yet. Maybe he's a captain or a lower grade.
Right, which we saw in Batman Begins.
Right.
Which we technically saw in Gotham.
Right. So, but you don't have a little kid from Gotham, and you got a 90 or close to a 2-hour movie with Batman Begins. So this is actually like taking time, like showing how they build their relationship, not just based off a couple of events, but like through an entire time period, maybe. Maybe Gordon's like, I don't trust this motherfucker either, and so he kind of plays, distant. And
well, what about if after Batman and Robin, a year and a half after that, they came to you and said, all right, we're going to do a Batman show. Batman's not in it. And the villains are going to be Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze. I think you'd be like, nah, I kind of just saw that.
Right, exactly.
Like, that's how I feel right now.
Yeah.
Because the elements can't really change too much because it is a backstory that we already know. This would be like, once again, showing us Bruce Wayne's parents dying. Like, we know that's the story, and then it's also unavoidable when you start to do a backstory.
Right.
So that's just kind of where I'm at with it. Like, I don't know a scenario where, because they've described it as a cop drama, unless they go the Watchmen route where they make it very political. But even that can overwhelm people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really don't know. I don't know how to get excited about. I like Jeffrey Wright as an actor in this. That's another thing. You're not going to de-age him.
No.
So this isn't going to be set 10 years before. So if we're not de-aging him, you're almost having a thing kind of set inside the world of the active movie.
Right.
So maybe you've got something leading up to the Batman with rumors of a Bat vigilante around, which we've kind of seen before. And then we actually get the movie The Batman, and then maybe the next season picks up right after those events. But that would mean that you're already filming this, and it's going to be out before the next movie, which I don't think is going to be possible at all. I think the movie's going to come out first.
I think you're right. So Maybe it takes a different route. Maybe it's not a prequel to this movie. Maybe it's a prequel to the sequel. So maybe you see the aftermath of like a big villain being caught and how the criminal underworld reshapes itself, knowing that there's someone out there that'll go to the depths to find them. And then how do you overcome that and lead up to maybe like a next movie?
Yeah, and I think that's the only route they have to go because timing of whenever they're going to be able to film it makes most sense doing that. But there's going to be the danger of, let's say they end on a big teaser after the Batman. Well, and then they pick the show up right at the end of that teaser, maybe. Well, you're also fixing to go to low level crime that happens on the street corner because if you have maybe hour long episodes, which this is HBO, it can be hour and a half long episodes, maybe 40-minute episodes, but you're really going to have some filler stuff.
Yeah.
And if these characters are set in the world, there are no throwaway characters that you can kind of put in the show that have prominent roles within the Gotham City Police Department that then can't be in the movie.
Right.
Where like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have really built a deep bench. Well, we're not going to see any of them except we saw Coulson in some of the movies and he died technically.
Right.
So they're not going to be able to go that route because this is the first, I think, tie-in kind of backstory that we've seen any studio try to do at the same time.
Also, like, you can't. The one thing they can learn from is that like Marvel has already made a mistake in the fact of like how they let the Defenders go, and how they never included them into the movies, and now Warner Brothers has their own streaming service to build their characters on, and you can't make that mistake that Marvel made. I mean, now they're in like they had to wait a couple years before they could even start redeveloping the character or figure out what they're gonna do with it. So Warner has an advantage in that, like HBO Max and Warner Brothers owns it or whatever. So like, I mean, it's just there. It has to be connected from the ground up.
Right. No, I agree. That seems to be the one advantage that they have now is that they can interchangeably use these characters back and forth while they try to world build.
Right.
Well, what will be interesting and what we can't, I don't think this TV show will clear it very much, but once they start building the world outside of Batman, if that's even a thought process, or if Matt Reeves has decided, look, I'm doing a trilogy with Robert Pattinson, we're not going to expand this world out to its own separate Justice League. Therefore, if this Gotham show gets very little reception and isn't very good, how that affects the movies going forward, since they are tied.
Right. Yeah, I just, it's such a weird move to me. I mean, obviously they've got something in mind, and I'm sure we'll find all that out in August at Fandom or whatever. But like, with everything that's happening, not to beat a dead horse, but like with the Snyder Cut coming and possibilities abound with that, and like, how good is this plan?
Yeah, because it feels very ambitious, but you're also trying to capitalize on having multiple media options. You don't just have to, and who knows really what the theater landscape is going to be like in 3 years anyway.
Right.
But you're giving a platform with a new partnership that HBO Max has suddenly had with Warner Brothers to take advantage of that. So I don't blame them for this. It's just a very peculiar. I mean, I could have picked 5 other things that I would rather see than directly going back to Gotham for this example. Yeah. If DC Fandom shows me that this show is going to have basically Colin Farrell lead the show, okay, I'll get into that.
Yeah.
But short of that, which kind of makes sense, I mean, if you're going to get these big name actors to play these villains, maybe you did throw out there that, hey, we're going to put you in a TV show also. This isn't going to be, 30 40 minutes of screen time that could possibly get cut. I'm sure actors were very aware of Jared Leto's situation and how the old regime did some things, and so maybe they needed some assurances that we get more screen time elsewhere. Maybe that is the plan. If that's the case, I am tuning in.
You know, there's a couple of things that have to do with this world that aren't necessarily connected to the G.C.P.D part, although they could be. One, I saw some sort of weird, I think it was on a tweet or something like that, that like a custom teeth maker was hired to their like costume department. And then people started speculating that maybe Pattinson's Batman might wear some like fang type teeth. And I guess apparently there are comics with that kind of Batman has that kind of look or uses that kind of disguise type thing, like to instill a little bit more fear, so people really believe he could be something that isn't human or whatever, just to kind of mess with them.
Which does harken back to the '89 Batman.
Right.
They didn't know if he was real human or not.
Right. And so I found that kind of weird and interesting, and like with Robert Pattinson getting his breakout moment as a vampire in Twilight, like, is this full circle for him if that happens? Yeah. Or what does that mean? But also, what is WB seems to be so smart now, especially the people in charge as far as like where the entire movie division is going, or just the media in general. You got someone like Jim Lee, who's heavily into the comic book part of that world as well. Do you play with the theory in the comics of the three Jokers and bring that to the movie, where do you say, hey, yeah, we're going to bring Jared Leto back and let him be involved in that world. We're also going to have Joaquin Phoenix continue his Elseworld solo venture, because a movie that made that much money off of that small of a budget and won an Oscar is going to continue. And do you and Matt Reeves has already stated that he's probably going to bring in another Joker for a cameo in his version of the Batman. I mean, how much of this do you think? I mean, just a numbers game. What kind of percentage chance are you seeing for these types of things happening?
Well, would you have liked in the Dark Knight trilogy, when there was corruption within the police department, to look at those backstories?
I would
is that something that you took from those movies and you were like, oh, I'd really like to know more about that? Because that's essentially what we're fixing to get.
No, not at all. I don't care about what's her name, Montoya's grandma or whatever.
Right. But isn't that kind of what we're talking about here? Is that's the kind of stories we're going to get? That's why maybe as Commissioner Gordon, really in every Batman movie you think of involves the police department, whether it be the '89 movie or the trilogy, Gordon separates himself from the rest of the police department because of the corruption.
Here's what I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that's what we're really talking about here, is diving into the corruption of the police department, and maybe Gordon being the shining light, Batman feeling like police department's not doing enough. I think that's what we're getting, and it's hard for me to get pumped about that, no matter who they bring in. I mean, I'm going to tune in if it's Colin Farrell-led series, but I'm still not super pumped.
Yeah, so speaking of the Dark Knight trilogy and what I would be interested in on backstories and side stories, and this could be an angle that maybe Matt Reeves' show will go at. Maybe it really is coming from the criminal point of view, because even though I don't really care about the corrupt cops, I really wanted to know more about Michael Jai White as like the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like he's a badass like dude who like gets pissed off at the Joker, and he's willing to like test that fool even though he gets fucking.
So you would have liked to see more spotlight on sort of the group that the Joker walks in on in Dark Knight. They're all kind of surrounded.
Yeah. I want to see, because they're the more interesting people, because they're the bad people, right?
But isn't that like the whole, I'm going to say, entanglement with Fish Mooney?
I didn't watch the show enough to care or notice.
Okay. So Fish Mooney was Jada Pinkett Smith's character.
Right.
And she had a whole thing where Penguin was like up under her, and it showed their like criminal background. The Gotham kind of did that.
Yeah, but here's the thing: Michael Jai White is more interesting than all of those characters.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about.
That actor to do it. So maybe you're right.
And that's what I'm talking about too, is like that intensity. Like, speaking about End of Watch by David Ayer, bring it from a criminal perspective, which should have been what not Justice League, which Suicide Squad should have been, and hopefully still will be. But like, see Matt Reeves' criminal underbelly world or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and then get badass motherfuckers like Colin Farrell, Paul Dano, and all that. But like, get the ones for even the lower level, like. To put it in perspective, they did say that John Turturro is playing Carmine Falcone or whatever, and I don't know if you're familiar with that actor, but he's the guy who played Jesus on The Big Lebowski.
So if this show ends up being a Colin Farrell led or Paul Dano, I assume both of them will be in it at some point because they're villains. And we're talking about the police department.
I would probably say Colin Farrell more than Paul Dano because Colin Farrell's playing someone he's playing the guy who's going for, even though he's Penguin, he's trying to be the mayor. So maybe you see political bad guys who could potentially be villains.
Yeah, and we think Skarsgård is going to be Two-Face potentially.
Yeah, essentially. It sounds like Matt Reeves is fine with changing names because apparently, Riddler's not going to be Edward Nygma. I think Colin Farrell is playing Oswald Cobblepot, but like Peter Sarsgaard is not playing Harvey Dent, but he could be playing another. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these little ambiguities, and half the character names they've given out could be like false leads to when you get into the theater and then you see exactly who they are.
That's true. That happens all the time on IMDb. They change the names.
Right.
Yeah. It's obviously, as most of this goes, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. So much pressure was put on the fucking DC fandom now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, man, I mean, not leaking anything, whether something as simple as showing us the new Arkham game. Well, it won't even be Arkham. Gotham Knights game. Not even showing something like that before. I mean, you're really lending yourself to a huge event that you're going to disappoint some people who don't cover everything.
Yeah.
Or just give ample teasers. I mean, that's what I was telling you the other day. We still have a freaking year, it feels like, until the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, and I replied back, nothing says that it can't be like January 1st and Zack Snyder's like, Happy New Year's, bitch. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, could you imagine, man?
Oh, God, yeah, I could, because guess what? I don't like going out for New Year's anyway, and honestly, who knows if anyone's going to be able to go out for New Year's by this point. But imagine, like, being able to stay home and, like, start 2021 at midnight if you fucking wanted to, or maybe that's when they'll drop it at midnight. And then mostly everyone's going to have the next day off, and you can just fucking sit at home and, I mean, in the middle of the night and watch that shit. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and out of everything that's possible to push forward, it's that out of everything else, because we know they haven't filmed hardly anything of the Batman, so they're not going to push that date up. They're not going to push up this Gotham series because that presumably hadn't started at all.
Right.
I saw, I think it was probably a TMZ article where Colin Farrell was out getting some comics.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, they're in the beginning stages of the role playing. So, yeah, that would be awesome. Even if they pushed that shit up to March, just something.
Yeah. There's a little bit of hope from me in my head because, like, the other day, I guess Chris Pratt and, what's her name? The redhead from Jurassic World.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, Bryce, they're already filming right now, and then Tom Holland's filming Uncharted. So, like, things are happening even if they're not happening on home turf. You know what I mean? And
yeah, he said he would be finished shooting Spider-Man 3 by February.
That is insane.
I don't know how that's happening, but yeah.
But I have hope that they just announced the other day too that they're going to um, what's it called, be moving to all studio stuff.
Oh,
And
that's right. Yeah.
so, like, that's fine. And they're going to start back, I guess, in September now. But, like, they were already overseas doing all this. So, I have a feeling they got something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I, I don't, I do like the idea of Batman coming out around Halloween because that's apparently when it got moved to next year now. Uh, I think that's a really cool time, especially when that could be part of the inspiration. Is
Right.
the long Halloween, but like, I honestly, I think it's a toss up right now if it'll even come out next year. Um, I think High Hopes probably have it coming out next year, but there's just no telling, man, right now.
Yeah, it feels like every day something has the chance to completely change timelines, let alone a week from now.
And so much can happen. I mean, so
Oh yeah.
much. So much has already happened that the amount of stuff that can happen from now till then is even more ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, but I have high hopes. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I'm thinking like just the abnormal pressure someone like Pattinson would feel getting the role for Batman, and then now the added pressure of, look, everyone is gonna be pumped to finally see movies again.
right?
Better be good.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah.
Because man, you've been sitting indoors reanalyzing old film, going over stuff. Everyone has a podcast now. Everybody's analyzing everything. I mean,
Yeah.
man, pressure.
I mean, we're all just waiting for him to pull the trigger, basically.
Yep.
I I don't know, man. That's why, again, not to beat a dead horse, but that's another reason why I'm so excited for the Snyder Cut and the potential Ayer Cut, which I really think is going to happen. Especially after yesterday, Jay Oliva came out in support of it, like on Twitter and like hashtagged and everything.
Yeah.
And I think when you get someone that big in DC that's already doing big things at DC saying, yeah, I think we should release it, it's probably on its way.
Well, I do see you get posts on Twitter from AT&T's official account where they kind of do some cryptic teasers here and there, which, all point to, again, the fandom.
Yeah.
It's just we're in this like weird waiting period where we're getting confirmation that they are moving forward with things like Matt Reeves' Gotham series.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we already know about Pattinson. So we know what direction they're going, at least as far as that goes. And then we've got this weird kind of Snyder thing happening where we have actors that are within that movie also progressing forward.
Right.
So it's kind of this weird kind of zone. We don't know what direction they're going. Are they converting? Are they staying separate? I mean, that would be one way to differ yourself from Marvel is not everything has to converge into one big storyline.
Yeah, and that's kind of what
not, at least not initially.
Right.
Have 10 years of movies in both directions and then do something.
Right. And that's kind of what they've been saying, especially about Pattinson stuff, is like it is just a straight up Batman universe, and that's it.
Right.
Again, that could change later on down the line, but like as of right now, it is in its own world. That's where you'll see everything, which makes sense because the villains that have come up in Batfleck's world so far is just Joker, is everyone that they haven't talked about in Pattinson's. So there's Killer Croc, there's Harley, there's Joker, there's
well, because of where you put Batman in Snyder's verse,
right.
everyone's old.
Right, everyone's old and been taken out already. But then you bring back the one fucking, I mean, him and Deathstroke, whoo, bro.
Yeah, man.
God
I
damn.
hope they. I've been. I'm. It's like you get. You and I hang on anybody that's connected to the world giving any sort of tease with their involvement with the Snyder Cut. But Manganiello's been kind of silent since he posted. He had some post-credit stuff
right.
Shot that was different than what we saw.
Right.
I would have thought that he'd be a guy out there really pushing it.
I think we've talked about this personally. I don't remember if we've already said this on one of the podcasts, but But first of all, I should state that Zack Snyder has stated publicly that he loves Jared Leto as the Joker. So you have the guy that had the vision that loves the guy who was playing Batman's main villain, and he picked Batman. So that's heavy-handed, right? There is rumor that in Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, Joker breaks out Deathstroke out of Arkham, and while he's in Arkham, he gets on the intercom and sings Jailhouse Rock by Elvis. Which makes total sense because it's Jared fucking Leto, and everyone knows he's got vocal cords from God. You know, he can sing. Right. Seeing something like that on screen, you want to talk about changing the dynamic of the Joker. That shit is so fucking next level. To have someone that you know can pull off some sort of song like that, sing it well, but sing it as the Joker, who's also breaking out hardened assassins.
Well, just the fact that we get to see Leto again would excite any. I mean, could they? They could literally do anything.
Yeah.
And that would excite us moving forward because at least it will show us that they're moving forward. I think that's part of my angst with the Snyder Cut is it being good, and then it just doesn't really materialize into a developing story with Cavill or with Affleck moving forward. Right. And it does transition to we are going to bring Keaton in, and then we are transitioning out of that. That's where I feel like it's going rather than keeping Affleck, because I feel like there's no real teasers with. I mean, AT&T did do something with showing Affleck's bat symbol.
Yeah.
You know, saying something like, you don't know what we have up our sleeve, but that could just be pertaining to the Snyder Cut.
Listen.
Not necessarily something extra, so.
Totally true. And I said this to you in private, but AT&T, you got some fucking nuts on you for...
Well, I also know AT&T's like $160 billion in debt.
Woo!
And so I'm questioning where they're getting the money to do anything.
Yeah.
They're actively trying to sell a bunch of stuff.
So what also is crazy is producers. I don't know if a lot of people have paid attention to this. I'm sure eagle-eyed people probably have. But there is an interesting producer on both of Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. And that interesting producer is the Secretary of Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, who is also known as like the king of the mortgage trade from the 2008 financial collapse.
Yeah, a trash human.
Yes. A trash human was able to help get things that we love made. It's a weird fucking world we live in.
But it is weird, man.
He's obviously a fan, and he's got money. So just because AT&T itself doesn't have money and it may be in debt or whatever, which I don't know the numbers. I don't know if that's super true, but it sounds like you saw something.
It was 200, and then they dropped it to 160.
Yeah. So producers can still get the movie made. I mean, they'll put the cash up, you know what I mean, and they get paid back. They're basically loan sharks. And so, I mean, and they have plenty of people who will put up the money for it, you know what I mean? So I feel like, and I know people are saying Affleck doesn't have a contract and nothing's committed and he's hung it up, but guess what? A guy who loves a character that much and put his heart and soul into a script for that character, yeah, you gotta walk away from something when it's unhealthy, and I'm glad he did it at that time, but now he has a chance to more than likely do everything he wants to do with it on his own terms. And with HBO Max, essentially this is what it's made for. And again, I know this whole episode is about the Gotham show and we're taking a tangent, but like, if there's ever been hope for anything, like, it's the fact that we got this movie made, right? Like, the whole release of Snyder Cut movement got this thing. I shouldn't say made, it was made, but they're getting it finished and put out. They're more than likely gonna get the air cut. Again, I don't know if it's gonna happen or not, but I have a pretty good feeling with the direction of everything else, and as much as they're hyping up fandom, like we've talked about, like, there's a super good chance, especially now, since yesterday, Jay Oliva, the director of the Dark Knight Returns animated movie, and he's heavily involved in all the animated DC stuff for Warner's. Like, he's talking about it. David Ayer's releasing more stuff. Like, there's just so much.
Will you tell me why Zack Snyder has not used that hashtag? Why doesn't it seem to be reciprocated? And is there a little like saltiness on Ayer's part? Would you imagine?
No, I doubt it. I think Zack has so much on his plate, and he's barely on social media that he would probably when he would.
I mean, he didn't even use it once, and it's the easiest hashtag to use.
Right, but he's also just been asked and answered questions about his cut of Justice League. I think when the movement gets heavy enough, he may say that fucking fandom. He may say release the Ayer cut. I don't think it's as big of a deal.
True. Everything could change like in a month.
Yeah, I don't think that's a huge issue. I really don't. He's so busy. I mean, he's finishing Snyder Cut. He's finishing Army of the Dead. He's probably gonna have to do some heavy editing now that Krista Lee is an alleged young girl fucker. He's got a lot on his plate. So I think a hashtag is probably not, because to his credit, David Ayer is able to be on Twitter much more than he is.
Yeah, that dude is always on.
Yeah, so there's probably just also that. I don't think it's a huge deal. I think they've got nothing but love for each other.
Oh man, I hope it comes out. Yeah. Because I think more than anything, you and I just want the direction that everyone's going, but also putting to bed speculation on best case scenario that we've always said is, no matter what they end up doing with Pattinson and the Gotham TV show, that they let Zack Snyder finish out his vision. And I think we've even seen from the higher ups that made the decision to release a Snyder Cut that they wanted him to just finish his vision.
Right.
Well, that doesn't stop with this movie.
That's
right. So that's what I think everyone's curious about is, well, does he get his original 3-part movie?
Yeah.
Where it was 3 full movies, which ended up being 5 total movies, starting with Man of Steel.
Yeah.
If that's the case, we've got 2 more movies after this. And then I think everyone will be satisfied. Best case scenario. What I hope doesn't happen is it's a one-off, and people are still will incessantly be, especially the Snyder Cut area of the internet, will forever be wanting more.
Yeah.
And I think it will forever be a sour note for whatever DC does moving forward if they don't do it.
I think
But there is a difference. I don't mean to cut you off, but there is a difference between putting 30 to 50 million towards something that is technically however percentage much shot and committing $250 million to the next movie, or 200 million, or pick a number.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's a difference between that, and I think we said before, what will they calculate success on? But that's a much different conversation to me.
Yeah. The one thing I also have hope in is that even if I have hope that Zack will stick around in the universe, and I think we may not get his. I'm pretty sure we won't get his full 5-arc movie idea. We might get a version of it, because I think what's probably going to happen is because he's already said that he doesn't have to compromise with this movie, right? Like they're giving him all his freedom, everything he wants to do. And
right, we're going to see his exact vision for this movie and for this cut.
Right, and execs were excited about it, and if they're excited about something, they've had this thing moving for a while, and they know it's already being a success because of just the media that it generates every single fucking day on the internet. The idea of him making more because of this is surely on the table. But I have a feeling that he will be able to manipulate it and change it, because you also have things that have happened that probably weren't in play from the beginning. You have Birds of Prey. You have Harley. You have Shazam and Black Adam, and Black Adam is bringing the entire Justice Society of America in, which is like 6 more characters or whatever.
Right.
So I have a feeling he could bring that type of epic shit that he does and that he had in his vision to a different storyline and maybe to a different degree, but also incorporating a lot of the stuff he wanted in the first place. But it's just
But
like,
isn't that what's interesting? Is let's say none of this happened and Zack Snyder got to do a full 5-film arc. Did we even have a notion that there would be a Black Adam or Shazam film at that point? Because I don't think so. The timeline doesn't match up. Therefore, it's almost like we wouldn't be getting these characters had Zack just been able to do his version, and then where would we have been?
well, I do know that Black Adam was happening for a long, long time. Like The Rock has talked about it for a long,
10
long time.
years. Yeah, 10 years in the making. But I don't think it got the push forward until Zack stepped off the set for Justice League. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if that's 100% true.
Okay, well, let's say we know Zack Snyder probably didn't have any intention of including Black Adam in his films.
I don't know if that's true either, because I feel like when you get to a movie like Justice League 3, everyone's involved. It's involving
okay, so you think you could have seen Shazam?
I think I think we would see him for sure. I think we would see it, at least him and Black Adam.
Well, it was so focused on Unite the Seven, though.
Right.
That's Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. But that's also
not even Martian Manhunter, just Green Lantern.
But that's also just for the first movie. You know what I mean? It was Unite the Seven for Justice League. It's not Unite the Seven for the entire arc. So
okay, that's true.
I feel like by Justice League 3, you got everybody involved. I think Zack could and would have showed us like their ship up in space that they can boom tube to, like everyone in agreement that like this is the biggest threat to all of us. No matter if you're like a hero or anti-hero or whatever, like this is what's happening. This is the main thing that we have to take on. I think Justice League 3 is your Avengers Endgame. I think that's when you have everybody.
I just don't remember. We've obviously seen every version of what Zack Snyder's vision was and what it could be in theories, etc. And I don't think I've seen any version that includes Shazam's name once, Black Adam's name once. Certainly not when you extend out to Hawkman or Hawkgirl.
Yeah.
So that I guess that's where my trepidation comes from. You don't typically see those type of. I mean, I guess you do see Shazam in some of the animated Justice League movies where there are colossal fights.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Well, I'm not saying you see all of them for the entire movie, because Endgame didn't have everybody for the entire movie.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there.
But I definitely think you end up meeting or crossing paths with everyone that's come to play so far.
Okay.
But again, this is all speculation. But it would make sense, at least in that sort of time frame. Like Justice League 3 probably wouldn't happen till like 7 years maybe down the line from the first one. That's plenty. Right. That's plenty of time to get others involved.
That's true.
So I think there's plenty of opportunity there, and I think there still is. But I feel like now that they're for sure bringing all these Justice Society characters, that it's probably going to change a bit. So
well, see, that's the weird spot Zack's in is, if he does any elements that are similar to what we saw in Infinity War and Endgame, he's going to be accused of copying that, even though he could say, well, this was my original plan before those movies.
And I
but
think,
we'll have no way of really knowing.
I think,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think someone in his position who obviously has an eye on what everyone's probably said or known about that whole ordeal, I feel like he would make it different enough to where you couldn't really even do that to him.
Well, if it's anything like what has been reported by, who is it Kevin Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Then it is pretty similar. You have some elements that are identical even.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is like now that cat's out of the bag and those movies haven't been made yet, he could go the route of changing it to where people would be like, "Oh fuck, I didn't see that."
You think he would choose to do that?
Yeah,
if that was on it. Okay.
I think it's a rewrite. I mean, I think that's all it is, just rewriting.
But if you're rewriting it, you didn't shoot it.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. He is probably gonna do stuff differently in the movies down the line, not in the Snyder
Oh, okay,
Cut.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, I should be more clear.
So this assumes, so you think that if you had to put a percentage on Snyder Cut happening and he gets a second movie out of it, what is the percentage you put on it that he gets a second movie?
I'd probably say 80, 85%.
Okay.
I think as much as they're putting into him now, and I mean, getting his back after his fucking daughter killed herself, like,
Right.
and having a new CEO who's female and who isn't, lauded and corrupt stuff, like, I think he's got a much better chance of going forward, and I think he knows that.
Okay.
He's so calm and collected when he gets on shit, and starts talking about stuff that, like, he for sure knows there's like, he's got all the information we want to know, and he's just like, he's so chill about sitting on it and just like being fine with that.
Yeah, no, there's like no fucking spoilers unless he puts those spoilers out there.
Again, this is the guy that fucking drew storyboards with Batman's gauntlet on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's so deep in imagination, and he's an artist. I mean, he's got plenty.
Right.
He's drawn scenes before he's filmed them,
Yep.
and that is amazing to me. I mean, that is like the ultimate, like, create what's in your head type thing.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Well, yeah, I know we got off track with the
yeah, totally.
TV show, but the back to the TV show, we really, it's one of those weird things where it's like I feel like we're in the same boat as just about everybody, unless you like the TV show Gotham, which there had to be those people because they got 5 seasons.
Right, exactly. And
So I think we're kind of in a waiting period, like everyone else.
Yeah, and Matt Reeves has like an overall deal, so like,
Right.
He's got free reign of what he wants to put out there, and he obviously has good ideas, and he is telling Batman from a detective noir, and he's been very vocal about that. So like, I don't know. There's potential. It's obviously not going to be, and that's the thing I want to make clear. We obviously know it's not going to be as cheesy or whatever, campy or whatever you want to call Gotham. But will it be compelling enough, even if it's different enough?
Speaking of the kind of detective noir style, what sucks is that's how Affleck described,
Right.
how his script was going to be. And then when they brought Reeves in and he was still going to play Batman,
Right.
I imagine that he kind of adapted that script. And so if Reeves knocks it out of the park with Pattinson, I'm always going to wonder, even though I know that he's had to redo the script at least a little bit because of the ages of the Batman. But a detective style movie with Pattinson, if it worked, I'm gonna always wonder what that would have looked like with Affleck, because I don't think you're gonna have, if Affleck does somehow have a deal with HBO Max and he's gonna put out a TV show. I don't know what it looks like to have two separate Batman heavy detective stories. You got a cop miniseries with Gotham that's going to be heavy detective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're almost putting similar content out there.
I see where you're coming from, but I also see how they could both be dramatically different. And nothing says that. Again, nobody knows if Ben has a contract. A lot of people are saying no, it's dead. He's done. Guess what? Nothing's off the table. We've said it 100 times now.
Exactly.
We'll keep saying it because it's for real. Nothing is off the table. Things are happening that people never thought would happen before. Not in just movies, but in the goddamn world. And so, like, just because it's not in play right now doesn't mean it can be. And I guarantee you, after me personally guarantees you, if I am gonna put a heavy prediction on anything, it's that after the Snyder Cut drops, like, all bets are off. I mean,
Yep.
He's proven both times. When Man of Steel came out, it was awesome. When Batman vs Superman came out, everyone was like, blah blah blah. But then when they released the Ultimate Edition and you saw how it was supposed to be, you're like, oh my fucking god, this is amazing. Like 30 minutes does so much. So when you get this guy's full vision and you let him take the reins and you get to see what he's trying to show you, what he's been trying to show you, it's going to change a lot of people's fucking minds. And I see no world right now where someone like Ben Affleck, who is a vocal Batman fan and has been for years and years and years, put his heart and soul into a Batman script, got in a real bad situation due to unforeseen circumstances, had to walk away because it was fucking him up, and now that the guy he enjoyed working with the most as that character and who helped him really be the Batman he wanted to be, so much so that he wanted to write a script and direct it himself. Like, now that he's back in control, like, I have to imagine there's a little glimmer of hope and a spark in Ben's eye. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, imagine how shitty Joss Whedon must have been on set to absolutely drain somebody enough. Now, obviously, Ben's opened up about some alcohol issues too, so. But imagine how shitty that must have been to want to walk away from that.
Listen, everyone out there, including myself, including you, has always had a boss they fucking hated. And they wish they never had to work for. And I believe that's what happened to these employees.
Dude, you know, and when you wake up in the morning and you work for that fucking place and that company, don't you fucking, you hate fucking going in, man.
Like, and again, someone in Ben's position who's noted that he's an alcoholic.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna make you want to fucking drink because you just can't stand the state you're in, and you thought you'd never be in there in the first place.
And guess what? If you had millions of dollars, would you keep going to that job? Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I could see it.
So again, it's been talked about ad nauseum on the internet about him coming back or not coming back, and he said he was done because of where he was at. But now we know so much more backstory. Like, it's all out in the open. And I don't see a world where Ben really doesn't want to come back and play the version he was hoping to play in the first place. And I think HBO Max, again, it doesn't have to be a fucking show. You want to make it different, let him make the movie he wanted to make. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be different. And you get a heavy hitter like Oscar winner and Oscar director Ben Affleck. And you get someone like Joe Manganiello, you get fucking Jared Leto in there. That's 2 Oscar winners.
Can you imagine if all 3 of them fucking...
J.K. Simmons, Jesus Christ, dude. There's so much potential there, you have to be a fucking idiot not to try to bounce on it.
Yep.
And that's what I think AT&T would be, or whoever makes those decisions. If they're like... It's just... Going back to the employee scenario... Me being a boss of a place where I work, I have gone back to get a good employee after they left because I didn't like how things turned out. And I was able not only to get that employee back, but they came back and were able to excel to the position they were trying to go to for in the first place.
Yep.
When the good boss comes, okay. For those of you who like The Office out there, you got someone like Pam, who, when Michael Scott gets quits because of the new management and leaves, he has people who follow him, and they follow him back when he gets back after he wins with Michael Scott Paper Company. Zack Snyder is Michael Scott and Pam is Ben Affleck, okay? And you know what I mean? Like, it can all get back to the way it was where people like going back to work. There's just so many metaphors for this whole shit. I truly believe there's a huge chance that Ben will come back, even if it's not in play right now and people are like, oh, he's done. Guess what? You never fucking know.
And he's playing a Batman that's already established that he's weathered and tired.
And you get to see his redemption to go back to good Batman.
Yes, and barring they shot a death scene for him, and Snyder's going to show that in this version of Justice League.
Yeah.
Maybe Snyder feels some pressure to put 2 movies basically condensed into one. I don't know.
I disagree with you.
Maybe he shot 2 movies at once. I don't know.
I disagree with you.
Barring that, I think, Affleck always has a chance.
I disagree with you on the movie ideas just because from everything that's been leaked, he was supposed to die in the 3rd movie, not the 2nd one. So even if they shot 2 Justice Leagues back to back, they probably did not shoot that death scene.
Well, what if they didn't give Snyder a what if they didn't give him a promise of anything after this? What if they said this is based on performance or whatever they're basing it on? Do you think that he has any kind of inkling to be like, all right, I'm going to stay within my thought process of this one movie. I'm going to end it how I was going to end the first one. Because remember, he knew that no matter what, even if he got to do his full vision or not, he couldn't put out a 4-hour movie into the theaters. So regardless, he's going to have to cut that down. Now that he gets the chance to make it a 4-hour movie, is the temptation there if, in fact, he isn't getting the promise of something afterwards? Because I would be tempted. I'd be tempted to show extra, especially if you have footage you can kind of splice together.
To get back to the job metaphor, when you're trying to get a promotion, you show them why. And with him not having to compromise, he's already in a power position, right? So he gets to show all the badass shit he had planned in the first place. I have a hard time seeing them being like, all right, well, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time. Like, they're going to
Well, you know what this means then? That we're going to see a Green Lantern.
Yep.
In this. We're going to see lots of stuff that's going to be so different. That's going to completely change our minds about it. If 30 minutes is enough to change your mind about Batman versus Superman, imagine what an additional 2.5 hours is going to do.
It's not even an additional 2.5 hours. It's a completely different fucking movie.
Yeah, you know I agree. Man.
Like, it's just, I just, again, I'm an optimist, at least in this case, and there's just so much. And especially now that Jeff Johns is getting dragged through the fucking dirt, like, maybe Zach gets to build the Green Lantern Corps with his Green Lantern. I mean, which, by the way, I believe there was supposed to be 2, not just 1. But I don't know. But again, possibilities are endless.
Because I'm really not that pumped about a Jeff Johns Green Lantern series, if I'm honest with you.
I don't think anybody is right now.
Yeah. I wasn't even before all that information came out.
Because again,
now, I'm sort of like whatever about Green. Everyone kind of shits on Aquaman in the comics for being kind of corny, but I think Green Lantern's corny.
I think if there's anyone who can make Green Lantern cool, it's definitely Zack Snyder.
Oh, I would watch the Zack Snyder Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Just because I know that he would tie to what he's doing.
I think the biggest problem is how do you make their superpower not stupid?
Right.
Exactly. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with that. But yeah, we're at an hour
for
3.
The TV show.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the TV show?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely put our opinions out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for this round, it looks like. Thanks again, Chris, for joining me, as always.
No problem, man.
Probably not going to be around next week. I'm going on vacation on Sunday for a week, so probably be 2 weeks before we get back. But there's plenty of time for stuff to happen in that amount. So,
that's true.
Yeah. But anyways, thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Wrong song. Try that one more time.
What are you doing? Defines one.